Today we're at Spring Hill Cemetery in Nashville, Tennessee, and we're here looking for several of the country music legends' grave sites, and there's numerous ones here in this cemetery, and we'll only be looking at 7 today, and we'll have to make a second video of more of them at a later date, but just thought I'd get a good start on the country music stars that are buried here at Spring Hill. The first one we're going to be looking at is that of Jan Howard. Jan Howard was born with the birth name Lula Grace Johnson, and she was born in Missouri. She was also one of 11 children in her family. Jan was not only a singer, but a songwriter and a writer as well, as she wrote her own autobiography and also some poems. And on her gravesite, you'll see a couple of emblems there, and the first one is that of Veterans Affairs, and that may be because she had a son that died in the Vietnam conflict, and she worked for many years with the United States military veterans through various different programs they offered. And also there's the Grand Ole Opry emblem there, and Jan was a member of that for 49 years. Jan would also be inducted into the Missouri Hall of Fame. She won numerous awards for her singing and songwriting, and she may be best known as a duet partner for Bill Anderson. Now to the next grave. We're headed to the gravesite of Gilbert Rhodes, better known to the country music world as Speck Rhodes. Speck was a comedian and entertainer of sorts, but he was also a very good banjo and fiddle player. He was born in West Plains, Missouri, the same town Porter Wagoner was born in. I would say this would maybe even help further his career when in 1960 he auditioned for a new show, the Porter Wagoner Show. Porter hired him as his bass fiddle player in his band, the Wagon Masters, and well, the rest is history. He worked with Porter Wagoner for over 20 years. Speck was known for his bright plaid jackets, which would probably be just as much of a attention getter as Porter Wagoner's rhinestone suits were. He also had his front teeth blackened out. I don't believe they were artificial. I think they were just blackened out. And he wore bright hats and bow ties. So he was a great entertainer. Now on to the gravesite of Jimmy Martin. Jimmy was a bluegrass musician as well as a guitar player. He also performed as a lead singer for Bill Monroe's Bluegrass Boys band over the years, and it is said that he would have his stone carved before he died, and it tells a lot about his songs and stuff, and that he was inducted into Bluegrass Hall of Fame and Museum there, but it's a blank before the Country Music Hall of Fame, as Jimmy was hoping someday they would induct him and carve it on there. As of this date, he has still not been inducted in the Country Music Hall of Fame. Next, we're headed to the gravesite of Rhodes Franklin Drake, better known in the country music world as Pete Drake. Pete was known as a record producer and also one of the most sought-after backup musicians for stars. He was acquainted with people such as Bob Dylan, Elvis Presley, Dolly Parton, Ernest Tubb, even the Beatles. And you may listen to a couple of the songs that were very popular for country music stars and not realize that the one playing the pedal steel guitar on those records was Pete Drake. That would be such songs as Lynn Anderson's Rose Garden, Tammy Wynette's Stand By Your Man, and Charlie Rich's Behind Closed Doors. Pete is buried next to his wife and business partner, Rose. And also, I would like to mention a few other interesting facts about him. He invented or developed a way of speaking to make his steel guitar sing on its own. So if you haven't listened to that, you may want to pull up something on YouTube or something to hear it. It's awesome. He's also been inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame, Georgia Music Hall of Fame, and of course the Steel Guitar Hall of Fame. He's buried in a section of the cemetery that is called Laurel Hill and within sight of another country music star. So let's take a look at that grave. We're now going to be looking at the grave site of Billy Walker. Billy was born in Texas with the birth name William Marvin Walker. Billy was a country music singer as well as a guitar player. and he's probably best remembered for his hit song Charlie's Shoes. But he also was a host of a television show for a while, and that was the Billy Walker's Country Carnival TV show. Billy was a member of the Grand Ole Opry for many, many years. He also was inducted into the Texas Country Music Hall of Fame, as well as the West Texas Music Hall of Fame. As you look at Billy and his wife Betty's markers, there's a couple of things I'd like to make note of. Of course, you notice the guitar. As I said, Billy was a guitar player. But also on the handle, it has the nickname that Billy went by, the Tall Texan, as he was a very tall man. I'm not sure exactly of the height, but I know when you look at him along with others singing, you can tell he was really tall. Also, the death date for Billy and his wife is the same. Billy was driving a van back from Alabama after performing, and he wrecked the van, and along with his wife and 2 band members, they were killed in the van accident. His grandson was also in it, but he did survive the accident. The next gravesite we're going to be visiting is that of Curt Gibson, a country music rhythm guitar player. In his early years when he was starting out in country music, he would play in George Morgan's band. Later, Curt would work with David Stringbean Aikman, and he even sang harmony with Stringbean on the Grand Ole Opry the night Stringbean ended up being murdered. Curt would play in Hank Snow's band, the Rainbow Ranch Boys, for several years until he retired. And speaking of Hank Snow, that'll be the next grave we go to visit. Hank Snow's grave will be the last grave that we'll be visiting today in this video. Hank Snow was born in Canada with the birth name Clarence Eugene Snow. He was a country music singer, a songwriter, and a guitar player. Hank Snow in his very early years even had the job of being a cabin boy on a fishing schooner ship. So he had some hard times when he was growing up. A couple of the songs that Hank Snow may be remembered by is I've Been Everywhere, and the song which he not only sang but he wrote is I'm Moving On. He even has a referral to that on his marker by saying Still Moving On. Hank Snow is buried next to his wife, Minnie. When Hank Snow hit it big with writing and singing I'm Moving On, he bought a house for him and Minnie, and it was called Rainbow Ranch in Madison, Tennessee, and it still exists today, and you can even stay there for a charge, of course. Hank has had numerous awards and honors given him, such as being inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame, the Canadian Country Music Hall of Fame, having a museum named after him in his hometown of Nova Scotia, Canada. And I'd like to say thanks so much for watching my video today. Hope you have a good day, and I'm still moving on toward having another video soon. Thanks again.